Hello, I'm Steve Johnson. I'm an AARP volunteer, and I will be your host today. Some of you might be asking, why is AARP engaged in this? Well, some of you might know that the roots of AARP begin more than 70 years ago when its founder, retired school administrator Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews, discovered one of her former teachers living in a chicken coop. Dr. Andrews was appalled that a woman who'd worked her whole life couldn't even afford a place to live. Dr. Andrews initially founded National Retired Teachers Association, NRTA, in 1947 to assist retired teachers by ensuring their financial stability. In 1958, she founded AARP to protect the financial security of older Americans over the age of 55. In 1999, the name changed from American Association of Retired People to just AARP and accepted anyone over the age of 50, retired or not. The core mission of ensuring the financial stability of older Americans remains a part of AARP's core mission. Fighting identity theft and fraud is a part of that core mission. So let's get started. During our session, please place your phone and all electronic devices on silence or vibrate. Ask questions, but be sure to share the air with others. Please keep your comments short so everyone who wants to speak has a chance. If I don't know the answer to your question, please write it down with your contact information and someone will get back to you. Con artists steal billions from Americans like us every year. Seniors are our high priority. Our vigilance is our best weapon against scammers. To help you protect yourself and your loved ones, today we're going to look at four things. What is the threat to seniors? Why are seniors a target? What are the costs to the nation and to Iowans? How do scammers work? How do they get us to act against our own best interests? How to protect yourself, proactive steps to take to prevent being scammed, how not to participate with the scammer. Available resources. We'll provide you with some resources that you can utilize to protect yourself. AARP, government, and local banks or trusted agents. Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber of the 20s and 30s, was asked why did he rob banks. He quipped, because that's where the money is. Over 110 million folks, one-third of the U.S. population, are over the age of 50, and they control 83% of the nation's wealth. 54% of that group are women. Military people call this a target-rich environment. And that is the way scammers view this population as potential targets. You are where the money and the opportunity exist. The FTC collects self-reported data on scams from consumers and then places it in 29 categories. The top three scams and fraud were identity theft, imposter scams, and credit bureaus. making up 48% of all the scams and fraud reported. Younger people, those 20 to 29, reported losing money to fraud more often, 44% to 25% of the time that older people lost money, those 70 to 79. The median loss was higher for older people, $803 versus $408 for younger people. Those over 80, median loss was closer to $1,500. We'll spend some time talking through each of these categories. The top 3 frauds and scams reported to the Federal Trade Commission in 2023 in Iowa fell into these categories. Imposter scams were at 19%. This is where someone contacts you and claims to be someone they are not as a means to get you to send money or give up personal information. Identity theft was at 19%. Identity theft is when someone steals your personal information, like your name, social security number, and bank account information, and uses it to commit fraud or other crimes. Online shopping and reviews amounted to 9%. Undisclosed costs, failure to deliver on time, non-delivery of purchased items, refusal to honor warranties or guarantees, internet auctions, businesses trying to prevent posting of honest reviews of products or posting false reviews. You'll notice that these 3 categories out of the 29 categories that the FTC tracks make up 47% of the scams committed in Iowa. Let's talk first about imposter scams. They involve criminals impersonating someone to coerce targets into giving them money. These criminals impersonate federal government workers, sheriffs, tech support workers, even our family and friends. The Federal Trade Commission reports that Americans lost $2.7 billion to imposter scams in 2023. We know that scams and fraud are underreported, so the losses are likely much higher. Why do you think scams and fraud are underreported? Most people are embarrassed that they fell for a scam. There is no reason to feel this way. There are 2 types of people in the world, those that have been a victim and those that will be a victim. The primary approach typically starts with a robocall or a live call in a robocall. The recipient is warned of a bad situation that they must call back to address immediately. Again, an imposter scam is when someone contacts you pretending to be someone they are not. The IRS, Social Security, or Medicare will never call you. What is identity theft? Identity theft is when someone steals your personal information, like your name, social security number, and bank account information. Identity theft becomes identity fraud when a criminal uses that information to steal money. Identity fraud can include opening credit accounts in your name and racking up thousands of dollars in debt. It can mean a scammer draining your bank account or applying for government benefits in your name. Identity fraud can involve filing bogus tax returns. While identity theft has declined from its height in 2021, it is still a multi-billion-dollar industry. The largest percentage of identity theft is in credit cards and personal loans. So, how is identity theft carried out? It is carried out by people stealing mail from your incoming or outgoing boxes, by the use of skimmers and shimmers, and the difference here is whether or not it's a credit card or a microchip, but these devices are placed on those readers, and when you use that card, the information is transferred or sent to a scammer. The other way is public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi is open to anyone. Scammers are watching to see what information they can gather from public Wi-Fi that's at a coffee shop or the airport. All of those free Wi-Fis are open to anyone, and scammers are looking to find key information being transmitted in that setting. Contests and lotteries. When you apply for some contest or lottery, you give up personal information, and some of them are fake. You give the information, the scammer is able to use that. The question is, how do data merchants get this information on you? One way is phishing. And when I say phishing, I am not talking about the regular phishing. I'm talking about phishing with a PH. Basically, how this is done, phishing is the use of unsolicited email to trick you into providing your personal information or allowing malware to be installed through a hyperlink. Smishing refers to the same process, but using SMS text messages, again, through the use of what looks like a hyperlink. Here's an example of a phishing email that is using someone from my contact list. You can always look at the email address to determine if it is legit by checking the actual email address. In this particular one, you'll notice that it is coming from this address, which ends in edu.tr. This one is the internet code for Turkey. Also, my friend does not live in or use a Turkey server. The other thing that I want to point out is it is meant to get your attention. Obviously, picks 4 and 7 would ring a bell. Well, if I'm curious, I'm going to click on this hyperlink. But knowing it is not from my friend, knowing that it is not a traditional address that I would see, I'm not going to click on that link. This is a smishing message my wife received. What do you notice about this text? Meant to grab the attention of the reader, requiring the reader to take action. Notice the dollar amount. How often have we used 4 decimal places in the US for dollar amounts? But again, it is intended to get your attention. Not your, if you don't recognize, click this text. Well, you certainly don't want someone else spending $534 of your money. The question is, what is to be done now? Definitely do not click on any links, block the number, delete the message. Contact the supposed sender at a contact number you know to be the correct business. You'll notice here the other thing that stands out. This is from Wells Fargo, right? How about Wells Farmgo? Again, always carefully read your text messages. I've spent some time on these examples because, according to the FTC, they were the primary means of contact in 2022. They were 61%. While these methods, email, text, phone, were the primary means, they were not where the highest monetary losses occurred. 3% of the contacts were online ads and pop-ups, but they accounted for 63% of the losses. A Navy veteran lost $3.6 million after responding to a phishing email. Over a period of 6 months, he used international wire transfers to send money to various addresses in Thailand. One of our Fraud Watch educators came up with this simple approach to protect yourself from telephone scams and text messages. Don't answer, don't respond, don't click. So, now that we've taken the bait, how do scammers get us to act against our own best interests? When authorities asked convicted con artists to describe the trick to scamming people out of their money, they all said the same thing: get them under the ether. So, what is ether? Ether is a heightened emotional state that makes it hard to think clearly and make rational decisions. Here's how one con artist described it: I wanted to keep the victim up in the altitude of the ether because once they dropped into the valley of logic, I lost them. So, how do you get to that point where you're not thinking clearly? You're excited. You've won. Fear of missing out. You're anxious. There's a love interest. Fearful. Relative in trouble. Loss of use of things like your computer, electricity, privileges. All of those things will tend to get you into the ether. Here are some ways that scammers create those kinds of emotion that make us vulnerable. Let's take a closer look at 4 of the most common tactics identified by cons. Phantom riches, something you desperately want, but which is normally not available. The con artist convinces you it is available. Scarcity, nothing gets us excited like the fear of not being able to obtain something. The con artist's job is to convince you that they can get it for you. The going out of business or Amazon, only 5 left. Source credibility. There is a thing of affinity. I'm sure you remember Bernie Madoff. Or celebrity endorsements or credentials to portray themselves as credible. Who remembers Larry David and Sam Bankman-Fried, the guy that had the FTX cryptocurrency? He's now serving 25 years. Fear and intimidation. Here, the con artist wants to get you excited by getting you to think you are in peril of loss, your freedom, your home, or a relative in trouble. Take the survey that you completed and using this guide, put 1 point by your answer if it corresponds to ones that are highlighted on the slide. Now that you've finished scoring your key, let's look at some things. If you had 0 to 5 points, you're at low risk for fraud. 6 to 11, you're at moderate risk. From 12 to 17, you're at high risk for being vulnerable to fraud. So, what makes us vulnerable? Social scientists are learning that fraud vulnerability may be less about how smart you are and much more about behavioral factors, such as how often you expose yourself to the marketplace, or psychological factors, such as how easily you get excited or whether you tend to make snap decisions based on emotion, hot versus cold brain. Victims of fraud expose themselves to sales situations more than the general public. This can be by opening junk mail, answering unknown phone numbers, or conversations with strangers requesting or soliciting personal information. You're more vulnerable if you show more interest in persuasive statements used by con artists, such as I previously mentioned, the phantom riches, source credibility, scarcity, comparison. Con artists prey on the trusting nature of people. Think Iowans. Victims are more likely to take fewer steps to actively prevent fraud. They're less likely to sign up for the Do Not Call register or check references or regularly change complex or have complex passwords. Those who are impulsive, driven by emotions, anxiety, fearful, or are non-reflective are particularly susceptible to con artists. Fraudsters and scammers often stress the need for fast action to avoid missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Victims tend to be impulsive, quick to act on limited information, more so than the general public. Remember, the con artist wants their victim in the ether. Finally, age. Victims tend to be older, with the average between 54 and 69. People over the age of 50 hold 83% of the wealth in the United States. Con artists know that is where the money is. Let's talk some prevention strategies. Protect your personal data. Protect your social security number and personal information. Don't carry your social security card in your wallet. Don't print your social security number or driver's license number on your checks. Limit the number of credit cards you carry. Keep copies of credit cards, front and back, in a safe place in case a card is lost or stolen. Get the ability to freeze your credit remotely. Monitor your bills and financial accounts. Watch for missing bills. Review your monthly statements. Contact your creditors if a bill doesn't arrive when expected or includes charges you don't recognize. Use the USPS Informed Delivery. This is a sure way of knowing what is coming in your mail. Watch your credit reports. You are entitled to one free credit report each year from each nationwide credit bureau. To get your free report, go to annualcreditreport.com or call 1-877-322-8228. Freeze your credit. It's free. It is indefinite and can be easily removed if needed. A fraud alert is similar, however, it only lasts a year. These are some prevention strategies to protect your data from scammers. Remember, they like soft targets. Protect personal identification numbers and passwords. Don't carry your PINs and passwords in your wallet or in your purse. Avoid using easily available information for your PINs or passwords, such as your mother's maiden name, your or your family member's birthday, your social security number, or a phone number, or a series of consecutive numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Choose a different PIN for each account. Protect your information online. Be aware of emails that claim to come from a bank, internet service provider, business, or charity that asked you to confirm your personal information or account number. Avoid conducting personal or financial business on shared or public computers or over public wireless hotspots. Install the latest version of established antivirus software on your computer. Make sure websites are secure, especially when shopping online. A secure website will begin with HTTPS, not the usual HTTP, or it will have a lock symbol. Protect your mail. Use the do not call register or Visit the opt-out pre-screen to avoid getting pre-approved credit card applications that a thief could steal and use to get credit in your name. Place outgoing mail into a locked mailbox, such as a blue postal service box. Myself, I prefer to walk checks or any financial information into the post office. Don't leave incoming mail sitting in an unlocked mailbox. Cut down on junk mail by contacting the Direct Marketing Association. If you're going out of town, use the USPS Whole Mail Service. It's free. They will deliver your mail directly to you. The original version of this was created by Al Perales from the Iowa Attorney General's office. He called the acronym TIP, Threat, Immediacy, and Payment. I modified it after a friend of mine was caught in a scam. He said by the time you get the tip, you may already be in the ether. Let me walk you through Q-tip. Unsolicited means simply that you did not initiate the contact. Think back to the fraud vulnerability survey. Most were unsolicited contacts. This can come to you in the form of general mail flyers. In these circumstances, your first question should be, why me, Lord? Why are you being given this opportunity? You have a lot of data floating out there. A lot of us opt into these contacts unknowingly on the cell phone company, department stores, or financial institutions. Door-to-door contacts, computer pop-ups, text or email. All of these are unsolicited contacts, or if you know they're unsolicited, you should avoid them. What's the threat? You have to stay out of the ether. For example, free. And some people may say, well, wait a minute. How is free a threat? Remember the thing I talked about where I said excited or emotion? That will bring on a threat. And free simply means they're free to reach into your pocket. Loss of money or freedom. That can also put people into a threat or ether situation. Your bank account has been hacked. You or a relative is going to be arrested. We've talked phantom riches. All that is needed is your account number to transfer the first payment of $10,000. That'll get you into the ether. You get excited. Source credibility. I'm with the IRS. I'm with Microsoft. I'm with Hurricane Relief. Whatever the current crisis is in the news, we want to help. It's the Iowa way. Or it could be, I'm with Trump, or I'm for Biden. Anything to get you excited. So, now that we've got you excited, we need to be careful of something to indicate a sense of urgency, that immediacy, the thing that says, wow, we've only got 3 left. This is your last chance to get it. What makes us more anxious than scarcity? Think Amazon or QVC when they're running their ads. Sale ends in 3 weeks or today. Buy today, in the next 2 hours or you lose out. Going out of business sales that last for a year. Arrest warrant has been issued. You need to take care of this now. The IRS will issue a lien unless you send us 3 gift cards of $100 each. Always look to see if the payment method is unusual. An unusual method of payment where you are unable to stop it once you've committed to it. Debit card. Using a debit card is the same as cash money. Once it's withdrawn, there's no way to get it back. Wire transfers. Similar to a debit card. Once the transaction is completed, the money is gone. Gift cards. No legitimate agency. IRS, the court system, legitimate companies will ask to take gift cards as payment. These have the same recall or stopping ability as debit cards or wire transfer. Cryptocurrency, completely unregulated. There's no way to get your money back. Cash. Once the transaction is completed, it is a done deal. The money is gone. One thing I would suggest is to think about naming a trusted agent with your financial institution. The trusted agent does not have power of attorney, but it is someone the financial institution will call if they are concerned that you may be involved in a scam and can act as a third person unbiased resource. Almost all financial institutions will allow you to have or sign a person up as a trusted agent. This slide is a summary for you to take home of Q-Tip. Number 1 goes to our prime vulnerability, exposure to sales situations. Question any unsolicited contact regardless of how it is made, mail, email, text, or door to door. Number 2, listen for a threat. Phantom riches, loss of money, loss of access, loss of freedom to self or loved ones. Watch for the pressure. Are you pressured to act immediately? Not to contact anyone? Stay on the phone? Would you normally pay any other obligation the way you are being asked by this individual? No government, financial institution, or a legitimate business will ask for gift cards. As I said at the beginning, vigilance is your most potent weapon against being scammed. Being scammed has nothing to do with education level, income level, where you live. It has everything to do with knowing you are vulnerable. When opportunity knocks, I like to peek out the window before I open the door. Here are some ways to be vigilant. Sign up for the Do Not Call register that is on page 19 of the Fraud Watch Handbook, which I'll be passing out. Use the USPS Informed Delivery. Freeze your credit report. It's free, and you can unfreeze it for short periods of time if you need it, and then freeze it right back. Use a trusted agent. at your financial institutions. Keep in mind Q-tip. I put the Q in parentheses because I considered it your initial barrier. Just as we saw in our survey questions, the foot in the door is the initial contact. Threat, immediacy, and payment. You've received the Watchdog Alert Handbook. Inside on page 18, you will find this contact information. Please keep these handy in case you ever need them or help a friend. I want to repeat an important statement here about being a victim of fraud. Everyone is vulnerable to being a victim of fraud. It does not discriminate based on age, education, level, common sense, or lack thereof. People are often afraid to admit to being a victim or to report it because they're embarrassed. It's like older adults fearing their kids will take their car keys after an accident. But in this case, they fear not being allowed to manage their finances. If you want to hear some stories, Google brains and losses. This will take you to a website where you will hear from real victims. Also in the Fraud Watch Notebook, you'll see this location on the internet for the Fraud Watch Network. In this particular slide, it illustrates Iowa, and you can click on any one of these icons and you will hear a story about fraud that occurred at that location. Here's my bonus slide. The next time you're signing into a new website, you're presented with a terms and condition page, which we all just click and agree to. Pause for a moment and scroll through to look at what the site says about the use of your data. I think you will be surprised about what you agree to as to how they can use your personal data. I'm going to pass out my business card. I have a dual purpose. I would like you to become a Fraud Watch educator. Please contact me or AARP at the number listed. Second, I have attached a Q-tip as a reminder of how to keep from becoming a victim of fraud. Now we'll take a few questions that you may have. This will be our last question. We'll be around after this presentation, so please feel free to come up and ask us any further questions if you like. Thank you all for coming out today.